Hi, this is Sebastian from Breath Restaurant Marketing here. And in this video, I just wanted to share with you a little bit of my story and just a little bit of why I do what I do. So I got into the restaurant industry, restaurant business, when I was actually pretty young. In 2006, I was 26 at the time. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I didn't know what the hell I was getting into. But I just got into it. I had this passion that, back even in college, I just had this feeling, right, of going into restaurants and having that experience of just being there and just, the people, the music, the food, of course, like the company, being there with friends and these things that really, call my attention. And back in the day, I remember when I was in college, it was, Chipotle was actually pretty new. And I remember just the wild success that I had. And I really liked that concept and just everything that it made me feel, right? In terms of the experience of food, and was different, all that stuff, right? And so since then, I had this, passion. I started developing this passion for this, for restaurants. And I didn't immediately get into it when I got out of college. I actually went to, after going to school, I actually did study marketing. And I started working for a big advertising firm, Leo Burnett, right? And then after that, I worked with Kellogg company, with a cereal company, also in marketing. So I learned a lot of things there. But after that, I just had this need I just wanted to do my own thing, right? So I started working with my two brothers actually on a restaurant concept that we had an idea for. And eventually what happened was that, they kind of both went their own way, and I stayed with the restaurant business and I started developing that. And I started with it was a small concept. It was an Asian Latin concept, like a fast casual joint. And, I didn't know what the heck I was doing again, but I just was testing stuff in the kitchen. We hired a chef that was, doing all the tests and all that stuff for the recipes. And we just went through it, and opened that actually was actually pretty successful. I just had, again, just a passion for being there with people and everything. And I got into the kitchen, the cooking, all of that stuff, right? You know how it is, for people that have been in the industry, when you're starting out, you just got to do everything, So, the marketing, the finance, it's just everything. And it's really hard to get to everything, right? So after that, actually, that restaurant closed after about 2 years. And then I actually kept working in a different company, and then moved to Miami. And then in Miami, we had this idea of opening another restaurant. I had sworn that I wasn't going to get into the industry again because it was a very difficult experience to go through those 2 years, operating a restaurant. Plus, we were open breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So that was insane, like the hours, right? So after that, with a friend, we had this idea of opening another restaurant. And in Miami, New City, because, first restaurant was actually in Guatemala City. That's where I'm originally from. So we were in Miami, and it was Wynwood. It's an area in Miami that was up and coming, right? Now it's completely gentrified. But, and so we found a good spot there, and we came up with a concept idea and all of that, and we opened a restaurant there, right? So that was a huge learning experience, of course, in terms of like all the stuff that I didn't know, all the incredible cost that I didn't know how much it was really going to cost to actually open a restaurant in the States. And it was, of course, way more expensive than we ever thought. And but it was an incredible experience. We made a lot of, good decisions. We made a lot of bad decisions, with that other, that restaurant there. And then that didn't really go well. After about a year and a half, we had to close that restaurant, and we had to make a change, right? So we found some guys that had a couple of small restaurants, and we actually partnered up with them. It was a thing of, it was a really interesting thing because it just kind of happened, right? We met at his restaurant one time. We became friends. Then he showed up, and he was interested in the space because it was a great space, really. The lease was awesome. So we got into it, right, as partners, and we started developing his concept there, which it was like a sushi Peruvian and Japanese place, really, right? It was a lower cost. It was perfect fit for the space and for the area, and it worked really well. So since then, I did want to step out of operations because that was not my thing. I learned how to do everything, but and I knew everything about that side of the business, but I wanted to go back to marketing. So I did. I stepped out of there. I assumed the position of director of marketing at the company. And at that time, we just had, a couple of restaurants. And we started growing, we started opening more locations. Then the company acquired another group. of restaurants, and we went through all that whole acquisition process, which that was a whole thing, of course. And but what I've learned there, is just a lot of stuff about restaurant marketing, right? Because I was in it. We were just 4 people really running the show there. So I was always trying to figure out how the heck I could market the restaurants better and how I can really get results. And so I experienced a lot of the frustrations that many restaurant owners do with not knowing if what we were doing was working, with trying to figure out what the best platforms were to, market restaurants. If we were looking for tracking systems that we can set up in place, because it was always very hard, especially restaurants being so, a little bit behind. They're getting better now, but still behind in technology in comparison to other industries. So it was really hard to know if what we were doing was working or not. So that developed in me this passion and this frustration and this passion to figure that out, right? Because I went through it when I was, operating a single restaurant. Then I was going through it with operating multiple restaurants, and I needed to find a system that could work, that could bring consistent results, right? So I basically went through everything. I tested everything. I hired different agencies, generalistic agencies. I didn't actually find many restaurant marketing agencies at the time, and but it was a pain in the ass because I couldn't find people that really knew what the heck I was talking about. They didn't speak the same language. They didn't understand that when you were doing something in marketing, it was going to affect operations. And then operations was pissed off because, again, if you weren't considering that, right? So working with agencies, that's what would happen. So what I did is I started learning all the platforms and all the systems because I didn't really trust what the agencies were telling me. So I figured out a way, and I figured out systems that I could put in place that can really get me a pretty accurate estimate in terms of the ROI of our marketing efforts. So after I was actually there for 8 years, and we saw incredible success and some failures as well. And that's really what, really got me all this experience and of really knowing how to do restaurant marketing well. And I started developing this idea, listen, if I'm doing this for, helping this group that I'm working with right now, I also want to do this with other restaurant owners, because I know firsthand how frustrating it is to, trying to run a restaurant and trying to do marketing, trying to do finances, trying to do everything. And it's just impossible, right? And then not really knowing if what you're doing is working. So that really, lit up this obsession in me to figure this out and to help other restaurant owners, help them with their marketing so they didn't have to go through what I went through. Okay. So that's how Breath came about. This is, our current marketing agency, which is dedicated only to working with restaurants. And now, we're fortunate to be working with numerous restaurants across the US, helping them with marketing and figuring this stuff out that I experienced so much frustration with. So, that's really my story, and that's really why I do what I do. And now, we just continuously keep improving and finding ways to help restaurant owners, to get the results that they're after, so they don't have to, go through all the stuff that I went through. So anyways, that's it for me. That's my story, and I'll stick to it. And I'll hope that's it for me today, and I'll hope to see you soon.